Hello everybody, and thank you for coming back to the channel and to this series of the building of the P47 Thunderbolt. So the structure is built, so I moved that aside, and now I go with one of the challenging parts, which is to build the canopy. As you can see here, I've already put on the masking tape around the shape of the canopy, and I've also built up a block. It's 4 × 9 millimeters, which is for the height, and then I've got also the size for the canopy. So the challenge now is going to be to carve it to the right shape, and then to use some kind of molding technique to build a plastic canopy. In case of emergency, if it doesn't work, I could use the canopy that I carve out directly, as I did in another model, but I would not like to do it. I managed to weigh this block, and with wood and glue, don't know if you can see it, I wrote it here, it's 38 grams, which is quite a lot actually. So it will be much less, I hope, and I hope I can actually carve out, mold out a plastic canopy. For that, I'm going to be using these screws and bolts that I bought at the hardware store, but we'll get to that later. So first step is going to be to trace out the canopy, stick it on the block, and start to carve out the block. So follow me along on this one. So I have now the shape stuck on. Maybe it was a little bit stingy when cutting the wood. I did it maybe too accurately. A little bit of lee space might have been good. But now what I'll be doing, I have to make sure that this doesn't move, and I'll start to cut off, maybe with a knife, even with a saw, cut off the corners and start to basically cut it down to shape. This will be, it doesn't really matter if it's the top of the bottom, it will be somehow it's just like a tube, let's say, with that shape. And then once I have that, then I'll go and copy then the profile from the side. This is the top view, so then I have to do then the profile. So this is going to take me a while. I won't bore you with this one, and let's see how the carving goes on, which is, it's a fun part. I'm still carving out the block, so I've got the base traced and I put it on both sides. And what I've done now, and actually, well, here's quite a lot of the waste that comes out because I cut out all the corners. And now I have the profile marked, again with the masking tape. What I don't have is the other side. So I'm not sure how to do that, if maybe to take the same one and then retrace it as I did with the top and bottom, but anyhow, I'll start to cut it like this, and then I'll get kind of a flat shape or squarey shape, and then it will be a question of rounding it down at the corners. But then I have to think how I can reuse this one on the other side to get that shape from both sides to be as accurate as possible. So let's see, creating a lot of waste, but fun, productive. And here is the shape kind of carved out. This would be then the front, the windscreen, and this thing I still need to then round it out. There is a little bit of a recess here because the canopy then goes up, but I'm going to leave it in because I don't really need to cut it off, as if I manage to do the plastic molding over it. So now the next task is going to be try to round it out and make that nice bubble shape, which gives a lot of charisma, that characteristic mark of the P47D. So that's going to be a little bit of carving and a lot of sanding, so that's going to take a while. I'm going to take a rest now, and I'll be back to it. Time for the update on the canopy. So I've pretty much carved it to an end, the canopy. I might still do some adjustments, a lot of carving with the knife and then sanding. I think the shape is kind of okay, but let's see, I'll probably do a little bit more finishing. I was thinking on trying to make ridges around it to mark the shape of the frame, but I think that would be not only too complicated and time consuming, but it might destroy it because I'm not so good at it. So I'm going to go with this kind of shape, try to make the plastic mold out of it, and then paint on the shapes of the frame, or the contours of the frame. Now the next step is an idea that I have from Herb Aswood. So if you're watching this, Herb, so thank you for your idea. He mentioned that I'd made a frame when I was putting on the tissue on the hanger rat. So what I'm going to do, and there's the idea from Herb, as I say, is I'm going to make 2 frames like this, but smaller. Like, it's got to be kind of the size, so maybe actually the width of the width of this frame might be good enough for the length of it, and try to make 2 frames. With it then, the plan will be to sandwich the piece of plastic in between the 2 frames, and then put it over the toaster, melt the plastic and try to squeeze it over the the mold. So the next step is going to be building a tool to be able to do the canopy, and for that, this is why I was buying also these screws with these butterfly nuts. I think they're called butterfly nuts, to tighten it down, to tighten the plastic and the two frames together, and let's see if it works. Again, an experiment. I don't know if it will work or not. If it does not work, plan B as usual, well, it could be plan C and D, would be maybe to use this as a canopy. I have weighed it now also without what's around. It has gone down, but it's still like 20 grams. It was 38, so it's 20 grams. So I'm not sure how much it's in ounces. I think an ounce and a bit. And I might still be able to make it lighter if needed, but I wouldn't like to use this as a canopy if I can avoid it, because it would be significantly heavier than just the plastic one. So I hope that the plastic mold works, and then now it comes to building a frame. That's going to be then the next step. I thought I would share how I'm building up the frame, just a little bit of a jig that I'm putting here together, because I want to make the cuts as perpendicular as possible, even if they're not perfect. This is my cut and this is the shop cut, so this is evidently better. But what I'm doing to keep my saw, which I don't even have a handle to, what I do to keep it straight, I've put there two small blocks of wood. So there's this small block, which I believe is a 90 degree, and also this other board. I fix it in there, and then I slide the saw blade backwards and forwards in between them, right? So that's what I'm trying to do to keep the cuts as perpendicular and in all directions, like perpendicular in both ways, to try to make the frame as well as possible, because I want it to last and I want it to be good if I can. That's the whole point of learning here. Try to do things as best we can. So anyhow, just a little incision there on how to build my own frame. So as you can see, I've managed to put together a frame which is made out of harder wood, so it's very different work than with the balsa wood. So the idea, it's actually two pieces that are the same, and I've drilled it and put these kind of butterfly nuts. I call them butterfly nuts, but I'm not sure how they're called actually. And then what I want to do, I need to cut out a piece of plastic, and I have the plastic here. There's this kind of plastic that I bought at the hobby shop for these things. I don't have so much more left. It's not expensive. If it would work, it would be great, but for me, I'm still struggling to make things work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trace out on the plastic the shape of the frame, and then I'm going to put it there. I need to make holes so that the screws go in and that they hold it, and then once held in place, then I'll go over to the kitchen, pull out the toaster and have breakfast, right? So that's the shape of the frame. If you see, they're exactly the same, but what I decided to do, you see, I don't know if you noticed or if you're interested, this one is short, this one is long. I decided to do it like that because I wasn't sure if it's good to have it in any direction, so I do one of each, and then when I assemble it against each other. So then there's a short and a long on each side. So anyhow, I don't know if it has any engineering benefit out of that, but that's how I decided to do it. And as I say, now I'll use this to trace out the shape of the plastic, make holes in the plastic, so I also have to mark where the holes are going to go, put it in place, and then the toaster. But also before that, I want to review this a little bit, just in short. It's a little bit bumpy here, but I think it's good enough, but I might do a little bit more sanding, so as perfect as can be, right, to not waste too much material. Anyhow, next step, hopefully a toaster. So it's finally breakfast time. It's actually almost midnight, but I finally gathered courage to try to do this. I've stuck and screwed the, what do you call it, the shape of the canopy onto a film canister, and I hope it holds. I'm now warming up the plastic. It's in the frame as I showed you before, and now the attempt is going to be to get the plastic as soft as I dare when it starts to sag, and then squeeze it over the plastic canopy. Logistics is complicated. I'm in a corner on the floor because the toaster has a short cable and I can't reach a plug, and filming doesn't make it easier. But let's see how this goes. Let's see if I learn something new. Let's see if I get this to work. I see the plastic already starting to deform somehow, but I still want to get it as soft as I possibly can, and let's see if I can get a shape that is good enough. Let's see. can't see it sagging too much. I do feel it's soft. It is not sagging anymore, so I'm going to go for it. It is hot. Ready, steady, go. Okay, it's taking on the shape apparently. I'm not sure how much it's going around it. I am pushing quite hard down. Okay, so it doesn't look too bad, like in terms of the shape. If I put in the form in there, I have the feeling, yeah, maybe you can see it, it's not really taking the shape on the sides enough. I don't know if you can see it because my big hand is in the way. It's not taking the shape of the sides, but maybe if I cut it, it'll go. I'm not sure. I think overall it looks better than anything I've done before, which I'm happy about. But still, if I could get it to be a little bit more closed in, maybe a smaller frame might have helped to make it more, but let's see. I'm going to maybe warm it up again and try to push it kind of upside down. Let's see if that helps in any way. Doesn't seem to be helping, actually. It's wrinkling it even more. I would say I even spoiled it a little bit. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm back kind of like to the first status, the first attempt, which I'm happy. There's still this side, but that might actually be okay. I might be able to squeeze it in when I'm building with glue. So now the next step is going to be to try to cut it out and see how it'll sit on the fuselage. So I might do that tomorrow actually. I'm a little bit tired after toasting myself a bit. And here it is. I've even managed to paint on some black lines to give the shape of the canopy. So I think it's okay if I put it on the fuselage. Let's see if you can see this. There, I have to maybe hold it. I think it'll be okay. It's very transparent, which is very nice. It is of course thinner than the original plastic as it was stretched, but overall I would say it's a success. Like it's one of the nicest canopies I've done, so actually quite happy with that. There is nevertheless lessons learned, because when I had it here on the frame, if you remember, like it does not close in enough. I need it to be narrower than it is. So the lessons learned is that the frame needs to be narrower than this, so not so wide. It's at the moment is like twice the width of the canopy, or even more, about twice the width. I would do it maybe just 1.5. If I compare it to the length, it is more or less maybe 1.5, 1.75, and that was okay. So if I need to make another canopy, I might try to use this frame again, or I might make another frame that would be more adjusted to the actual shape. Of course, if you have a suction, like a vacuum system that you can then do it with that, then it's of course much better. But for homegrown solutions, the idea of the frame worked and the toaster is also working, and I have a nice canopy that will hopefully at some point go on the fuselage. So thank you for following along on this battle. It's incredible how long it takes, 1 week at least, to do all this, and it's incredible how much time we spend on a detail. One single piece is probably taking much more than a whole, I don't know, fuselage assembly or something like that. So it's part of the hobby and part of the enjoyment. As I say, thank you very much for watching and for your comments. As you see, I do use your comments and your tips and tricks, and I'll see you next time.